Hi, hello, book nerds. Welcome back to my channel. I am so glad that you are here today. Today, we're going to dive into my bookish specific goals of 2026. I did a video with general goals earlier, but I wanted to incorporate more bookish specific ones since that is the main focus of my channel. So let's go ahead and get into them. These are probably not going to be super surprising. They're probably pretty common among other booktubers, but I am super excited to share these with you. And I will be doing my best to keep track of them throughout the year so that at the end of 2026, we can definitely see the progress and if the goals have been hit or not, and trying to make them as measurable as possible. Like, was I actually successful in accomplishing these goals over the course of 2026? So the first one is 52 books. That's the number of books I want to complete in some form or fashion over the course of 2026. In 2025, I did read well over 150 books. I think my current count is like almost 160 at this point. Because there's a few books that like I didn't track and I forgot about and all of the things on Fable because I did take a break from tracking for a few months. And there's nothing inherently wrong with reading a ton of books. I absolutely love doing that. But realized I was reading more for sport and less out of enjoyment. Yes, I film book content. I have to read probably more than the average person because this is literally what I do. But I wasn't reading. I would like read to basically make that number go up, not necessarily out of enjoyment or for retention. And I want to be able to remember and talk about the stories that I read. I was just trying to speed read through as much as I possibly could to check off that book, add it to the list. It was very much a bigger number, better person mentality in the books that I would read. And my goal this year, it's just about a book a week. Like, not necessarily speed reading through anything, not listening to every audiobook at 2x speed just so I can finish it as fast as humanly possible, just so I can like sit and savor and truly enjoy the stories that I've read and be present in those worlds to to connect with them more emotionally and on a deeper level than just trying to get through it, be able to retain basic information for a video, and then completely forget about it. Because there are some books like I rated 5 stars. Like, this is a great book that I probably either wouldn't have if I had taken my time, or that I might have still rated them 5 stars if I had taken my time, but I would have felt more emotionally connected to those stories. So I I do truly enjoy the stories and the learning and the growth, but I also want to be able to sit and savor and take my time with them. So some books, they will take me longer than a week. Like, one of my 26 and 26 books is The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, and that thing might take me an entire month to physically read. But there are some books, like I'm currently reading Ask for Andrea, that might take me 3 or 4 days to read. So it's just an average of a book a week that I want to complete in 2026, which I think is reasonable. And because a lot of people, they're like, oh yeah, my goal is 100 books. And if you really think about it, that's 2-ish books a week. And for some people that can read a lot, like physically read a lot faster than me, that's doable for them. Most of the books that I do, I listen to because I would listen to them while I was at work and multitasking and all the things. And I still do some of that. But this kind of goes into my next goal. What I want to focus more on reading books physically. It's like, we can all probably agree that it's typically a much better experience physically reading it than it is listening to it. There are some situations, like especially if you have like a graphic audio or just a super powerful narrator. Like, I've read some books where I'm like, I liked it physically, like that was cool, but like the narrator just takes it to that next level. but typically physically reading it is going to be ideal. And with physically reading it, it's easier to be able to sit and savor. Because if you're listening to a book and you like hear something, you have to like figure out how to pause it either on your headphones or on your phone really quick, and you might miss something in that process that you won't necessarily miss if you're physically reading it. And I also tend to daydream more when I'm listening to audiobooks and zone out and I miss pieces and all of those things. So my goal is to be more present in 2026 in every aspect of my life, in my relationships, in the activities that I do, and in my reading. Be present in those stories and connect with those characters. So with that, I will be prioritizing more physical books than audiobooks. And I've also begun doing more immersive reads. And I've absolutely loved that. I did that with The Will of the Many on my way home from visiting my in-laws at Thanksgiving. And my husband thought it was insane. So like I had my Kindle app on my iPad up and I had my AirPods in listening to the audiobook as I was reading it on my Kindle. And he was like, that's psychotic. And I was like, it's fantastic. Don't knock it till you try it, bud. So that is goal number 2. I want to focus on physically reading books, not just listening to them. Now I will die on a hill. Audiobooks still count as reading. You're still getting the information. I just know myself and I want to slow down and be more present. So, number 3 to help with this is I also want to maintain a legitimate reading journal. So, I've gotten like the pre-built ones that are pre-structured before, mostly as gifts, and they're either not set up in the way that I like or that I would want, or they have more than I would actually need and use. So I feel like I'm wasting a lot of it, or they don't have enough. And so instead, what I did is I got a bullet journal that is going to be coming in the next couple of days that's spiral, so I can easily lay it flat, and then stickers, like bookish stickers, so I can basically create it how I want to create it. I have never been great at keeping up with journals like that are pre-built because I do feel overwhelmed or it's not built out the way that I like. So I might also I do need to go to Hobby Lobby for a couple of things as well. So I might while I'm there look and see if there's any like bookish related supplies for that to create my ultimate bookish reading journal that is perfect for me. I did get a little bit of a larger one, so it might carry me all the way through 2026 and into 2027. But this way I can keep track of all the books, write notes about them in them. So like especially when I'm reading it on my Kindle, I can like write little notes in the margins like, oh, in chapter such and such this happened and that is wild. And just keep notes of the books that I'm reading as I read them. And I'm not limited to a small, tiny little paragraph section. So I do love writing my thoughts. Like I have a journal notebook in my good notes on my iPad that I just like, that's why I typically like when I am like praying in my head, I'll like write them down so I can keep a train of thought going and I get super distracted. So I like writing them down and I don't like being confined to a small space. So I think this will help. And then that way I can look back and see all of the notes. It'll help me better when I'm rating the books and it'll just help keep me on top of things. So another goal that I have, and my husband will love this one, is to maintain intentionality with the books that I buy. So I don't want to just buy a book because it looks cool or I have FOMO because I see it on social media. I'm not on TikTok or anything, but I am on Instagram and obviously on YouTube. And I want to choose books, like, I want to think through the books that I choose more. I don't want to just buy a book on a whim and not look at what the spice rating might be. I want to look at like when you read like or at least skim a little bit of the synopsis. Like, does the plot sound interesting? Is this something that I would truly want? And I also don't want to buy 10, 15, 20 books at a time because when I do that, I either tend to not read them and then it's a waste of money, or I end up with such a thick backlog of physical books that it's absurd and unnecessary. And I don't want to do that. I want to be mindful of the books. That's why when I did my 26 and 26, it's only consisting of books that I physically own already. And I am going to slowly incorporate as I can the other books that I physically own. I'm not saying that even if I have a few books on my physical TBR that I'm not going to buy any. That would be unrealistic. So I might buy a book or two, but I don't need to go and buy 10 or 15 every time I go to the bookstore. And I do need to work through the physical books that I already own. I'm also, yeah, half the time the purchases that I make when I buy like thick, like the huge hauls of books are not wise uses of my money. And I just want to be wiser with that, especially as I get older. So once I get to my current physical TBR, my goal is to only buy a book or two at a time. And this doesn't mean I won't read books I don't physically own, because I do have Kindle Unlimited and I have Libby and I have Audible. So I have other methods of reading than just the physical hard copy with paper. Now, if you're one of those people that you can like lightning read through things and retain all of the information that you need and whatnot, it might make sense for you to buy more books. I can't do that. I read physically fairly slow because for whatever reason in my head, I'm like, I can't skip words. So I have to read every individual word on the page. So as I read, I do get faster, but if I buy 10 books, it's going to take me almost a year to probably read all of them physically, unless I listen to some of them. So I just can't get through them that fast, and there'll be more books I'm interested in. And a good book will be a good book whether I buy it now or if I buy it in 6 months. Like, it'll still be a good book. So I can wait, and it'll be beneficial later on, save a little bit of money. It might end up coming on Libby later, because obviously that's through the public library. And I'm also being more conscious of what I spend in general, just with the context of we are renting. And so, do I want to move this? Like, how much do I like this book to want to physically take up space in a box and in a truck and move it? Whether we're moving it across town or across the country. Do I want to move this? So that doesn't mean I won't add it to my wish list or my online TBR or my Kindle library, but I am going to be intentional about where my money goes. So there might be some books I'm like, I think I'll like this. It's on sale on Kindle for like $2. I'll get it on Kindle and read it. And if it's like a 5-star read, I'll buy the physical copy of it. Same thing with Libby. There are books like I've absolutely loved that I've read on Libby that I don't that I've gotten the physical copy after. I'm like, I need a trophy. But there's also ones I'm like, I really like this book, not enough to go buy it. So, I'm going to be even stricter on the ones where I'm like, would I go and buy this if I had read it for free? So, with that, I do want to use my public library more, even if it is just through the Libby app. So many books are available for free through Libby, both ebook and audio, and it connects to your Kindle app. And I need to take better advantage of it. It is an amazing free resource, and I could do that versus if it's available on ebook, I could rent it from the library, and it'll go into my Kindle, and I can read it there without having to buy it on Kindle if it's not on KU. And I do need to take better advantage of it, especially because I live in a large metro area. So I do have a pretty extensive library that I have access to, and it's such a great resource that makes reading accessible to anyone who needs or wants to partake in this super entertaining and beautiful hobby with reading. My final goal is I do want to read more classics this year. So I never really read classics beyond what I was forced to read in school, and I did not grow up a reader. This is an adult situation. Like most of you, it started with ACOTAR. Well, it really started with Harry Potter. Because I never read Harry Potter. I was like, I want to read Harry Potter. So I read Harry Potter over the course of a year. And then I read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. And I read probably about 12 books that year, 15 books that year. And then ACOTAR happened, and reading became my personality. So, but I've never really been into classics. I'd read enough of the classics when I was in school to not fail the class. But that was really it. And so I was never really fully impacted by most of them. But the one that I am going to start the year with for my classics in January is A Secret Garden. My parents at one point, they both worked at the same hospital day, and one of my mom was days and my dad was nights. And if they worked over the course of a weekend and they both were working the full weekend, I would go stay at my grandparents. My grandmother was a teacher, so everything was educational or edifying in some capacity. I'm so thankful for that. And so even when I was like 5, 6, 7, she would read me chapter books before bed. And at a certain point, like I would read them out loud to her. And so one that she read to me was The Secret Garden. And we're approaching the first anniversary of her passing and towards the end of January. And so I do want to read The Secret Garden in honor of her and in her memory before then. So that is going to really kick it off. And I feel like that's the best way to kickstart my classics journey. And some of the other ones that I have kind of sprinkled in throughout 2026 are Pride and Prejudice, Sense and Sensibility, 1984, and The Great Gatsby. So those, just from my research, are some that are pretty easy to get into with the classics from what I have seen. So I'm super excited to read these classics that everyone has talked about for so many years, some of them for centuries. And I'm excited to read what literature is pretty much based off of. So I'm super excited to get into those stories as well. So these are my bookish goals in 2026. A lot of them boil down to requiring intentionality and wisdom to become accomplished. And I know I'm capable of reaching all of them in 2026. And as I go into my 30s, it's all about slowing down, being present, and being intentional with my time, my money, and my overall bandwidth. So I can be my absolute best to those that I love and the things that I love doing, and ultimately to glorify God, grow His kingdom, and grow my relationship with Him even deeper in the process. So that is all I have for you today, besties. But before you go, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and leave a comment below. What are your goals? What are your bookish specific goals in 2026 that we can all accomplish and help push each other towards together? I look forward to reading through all of those. So have a wonderful rest of your day, night, evening, afternoon, whatever time it is that this video finds you. And I will see you next time.